Hey, it's James from JBS, and this video here was brought to my attention. So I kind of like it when other people post videos, and that way I can go in and video theirs and show the difference so everybody can see what the difference is between opinion and facts. So here's the first part.
I wanted to address something. Probably about 5 times a week I'll get a phone call about removing the primary spring in your KRX. I have always told people don't do it. It's there for a reason, and I'm going to try to explain in this video.
All right, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to try to explain in my video. I'm going to tell you what actually happens. I've been doing this for a long time. I just don't sell other people's parts. I've been modifying clutches. I understand them. Alba won 2 or 3 Bajas in a 660 against 1000, second overall against 1000s. And Yamaha doesn't have a secondary spring. So how do they backshift? They backshift with the secondary spring. They don't have a primary spring. So primary springs aren't necessary unless the bike doesn't have a wet clutch. And I've done a lot of testing, and I'm going to explain it at the end of this video, but we're going to go over a few more things here before I do. And I'm going to explain exactly what happens. And I'm not going to try. I'm going to tell you what happens.
Why? And then we're going to do some runs on our 4-seater KRX with 35 stock weights.
All right, when I told people to remove this spring, it was for stock tires. Yes, if you lower the RPMs that much and then put 35s on it, then it's going to be a little slower without the primary spring. But it doesn't have to have the primary spring, and I'll explain that at the end of this, but I'm going to keep going over some other things here.
With and without the primary spring. So this is a KRX clutch. This is a 77 clutch. It's been cleaned up and worked over a little bit, so this one does not.
And I also want to say, when Deranged made that one video, and I videoed their video and showed part of the video on mine now and said that they would delete it and that's why I videoed it. If you go over there, they deleted it out of there, just like I said they would. And this will be the facts right here too.
I have the markings on it, but this is a 77 clutch. It's kind of just a junk clutch. We did a little work to it, didn't like it, so that'll be it'll show in our video.
So he's going to use a junk modified clutch to do the testing with.
And what that does, you can see how much pressure's on it. It takes a lot of pressure to move it.
All right. I think he should have took this time to work on his weights and maybe fix some of the problems that he has on his weights.
And how the primary spring works. So this is how your clutch sits at idle. Your belt's all the way at the very bottom, which is the lowest ratio for taking off. And as you speed up, the weight will push up on the roller and start to close the primary down into each other, and it'll run the belt up the sides of the sheaves and get you into a higher ratio until you reach full shift, which you can't really see on this one because it's been cleaned up, but the top of the spotter will contact the faceplate on a lot of these clutches, but that's full shift. When you let off the gas or the throttle and the RPM start to drop, this spring.
All right, this is a bunch of nonsense right here. So I'm gonna go on up to 245.
Back against it, so the weights and the spring are fighting each other 24/7. That's how CVT works.
Not all CVTs, not Yamahas, not any of the Arctic Cats that have a wet clutch. They only need it in the bikes that doesn't have a wet clutch. So let's get up here to 245. Let's see what he's got to say.
There's the spring there, and you can already see when the spring's in there, it holds the clutch open, so the belt can be in the lowest ratio and get you the correct starting ratio. But when there's no spring in there, that's what happens.
All right, what happens? There's no belt in this sheath, so he's showing these people what happens. And here's these people down here that amazes me, Ralph. Very well explained and verified. Thanks. Verified what? He shows the clutch moving up and down. Watch the end of this video. Kawasaki didn't put that spring in there for shits and giggles. So did they put weights that wear out in 300 miles in there? You know, they didn't just put it in there for shits and giggles. Man, if you ain't got no facts to answer, these answers right here, I mean, they're not answers. All you're doing is hugging. Like they say all my guys are doing, nut hugging. No, my guys know a real product when they see it. And like I said, he's just over here bashing because that's the only thing he can do is talk shit about what I do. So here's the facts at the end of this video.
Let's go back to how we were talking earlier. This thing's so sloppy without the spring on it. Hang on.
So sloppy without the spring on it. So it just keeps down that, but you know, there's no facts of anything here. You know, what does that say? Because it don't have, it's so sloppy without the spring in it. It don't have nothing to do with performance. And I'll tell you what, any of y'all don't think my clutch is back shift without the primary spring? I got $500. Bring your bike and put it behind my bike and let's see who back shifts better. I promise you, I'll leave you in the dust. And I'm going to be riding a lot this year, so all these videos are getting made. I'm going to be out there. I went through a lot the last couple of years, and I haven't been out there like I have, but I'm back, and you're going to see what's happening.
So, you started it.
All right, so let me explain something here, how a primary spring works. You have to have it in the non-wet clutch because the belt doesn't stay in full contact at all times. So Yamaha doesn't have one. And there's the secondary spring back shifts the primary. So it has constant belt tension. All right, and this is facts and this is done from testing. This ain't my opinion like right here because if he had facts, he'd give you something worth listening to. And I've done clutching a long time, and I probably maybe know a little bit more than he does since I've done it, 10 times longer. All right, what happens is I took the first Terex out for a ride. All right, when I came down the hill, I was always a Yamaha fan. When I came down the hill up here behind the house and went off the rock ledges, the belt would chirp in the Terex. Well, none of my Yamahas ever did that because everybody knows Yamaha's got the best belt system. Go read about it. All right, and the reason it's the best is because of how it's set up. All right, so yeah, on that 35s with no primary spring, all you have to do is run lighter weight or a little stiffer secondary spring, and then you get the best performance. Just taking it out with 35s ain't the good setup. You know what I mean? He's just doing this to make a point that's not really relevant. And because nobody wants to pull a primary spring for 35s, it was to do it for stock tires and a little bit bigger tires than stock for the people wanting the lower RPMs. And they loved it. That's what I did it for. It don't matter if you don't like it or whoever don't like it. I did it for the ones that would like it. All right, so when I'd come down that hill, the primary would feed the secondary belt. So when the wheels would come off the ground and the wheels would land, the belt would chirp. All right, I come back here, and Yamaha never did that. So when I come back here and thought about it for a little bit, I was like, all right, the Yamaha don't have a primary spring. I took it back up there without a primary spring, come down the hill in the Terex, no belt chirp when it come off the edges of the rocks. So guess what? Less belt wear because the belt ain't slipping. All right, so the only thing you got to do is lighten up the weights or go with a little stiffer secondary spring like Yamaha does over Cowie. There's a stiffer. Go do the testing like I have. And there's a stiffer for a reason. All right, so now anytime that you let off the gas, the secondary isn't trying to keep up with the slack the primary's feeding it. The secondary actually pulls the primary back open like it should. And I have a lot more info on the setup and why we do it, but that's the main reason there. And just wanted to educate y'all and tell you some facts of why we take it out. And like I said, I'll put my bike, you think they don't back shift without a primary spring? Come and take a ride in my bike or anybody that wants to and I'll show you, it will outrun yours, period. And it will back shift and shift out faster than anybody's with a primary spring. So that's the facts. Check out JBS. We got weights that don't wear. We got shims so they don't go into the side. Our bushings don't slide out and get stuck in the sheaves. So we spent some time working on our sheaves and our weights, and we've done a lot of testing over the years. And we got the best product. Check us out, JBS Performance.